I was on a few Arsenal WhatsApp groups last night, just sort of gauging the reaction to the Zubimendi news. And I think people are generally quite happy, but 9 out of 10 Arsenal fans will say to you, look, the here and now, we need a striker, or at least a forward that can maybe play through the middle. So what are the options, the realistic options for Arsenal?
It's difficult because you see all the names mentioned. I've seen hundreds of fans mention Isak. I've seen hundreds of fans mention Gyokeres, Osimhen as well. And these players are obviously of top quality, but at the same time, it's so difficult to get top strikers in January when their teams are aiming to achieve something. Isak, their teams are aiming for Champions League. Osimhen feels like he owes something to Galatasaray for giving him the opportunity to, show that he's still a top striker. And Gyokeres as well, he said that he's going to stay up until the summer. I think the most realistic option for them right now is probably Vlahovic, a player that they were linked with a few years ago in 2022. Obviously, his time at Juventus hasn't been the greatest. He's still scoring goals. He's got 12 goals, 2 assists this season. But if you speak to, or if you see any Juventus fans' frustration this season, they say he misses a lot of chances. But at the same time, I think sometimes a new environment might be good for a team. And because they want him so bad, and we've seen the Kolo Muani links to Juventus, I think it just makes sense.
It really does in that sense. And I think when you look at Vlahovic, again, when he was at Fiorentina, he was a focal point of their attack. Everything went into his feet. He linked really well. What's quite strange is obviously Thiago at Fiorentina, but maybe not now. And it's an interesting one. You mention all those good forwards. And, Isak isn't going to leave Newcastle this January, in my opinion. 25 goals in 2024, and Shearer's managed more in a calendar year in the last 22 years. And when you look at those numbers underlying him, since the start of last season, only Haaland scored more as a striker, only Watkins has created more chances, and only Jackson has completed more dribbles. He's got that duality. He's too far away. You mentioned the likes of Osimhen as well. Could they get him from Galatasaray? He's got one of his best goal plus assists per 90 in his entire career. And then Gyokeres has basically said that he's staying at Sporting. 62 goals in 2024. Those players feel away from it. But what about someone like a Benjamin Sesko?
Yeah, who Arsenal were reportedly interested in the last window. So might they go back in for him again?
For sure. I think he's someone that has started to evolve. You look at the start of 2024. I remember watching him against Real Madrid in the Champions League knockout game. His movement was incredible. Got into so many good goal-scoring opportunities, but that day missed 3 big chances. From that point onwards, you're looking at his numbers, 18 goals in the Bundesliga. That's more than the likes of Matheus Cunha, Kai Havertz have managed in the Premier League. So he's got the quality. But also looking at his underlying numbers, he scored around 9 more goals than he should have done due to his expected goals. So big potential. And we all saw his goal against Werder Bremen this weekend. An absolute banger.
He scores some bangers, doesn't he, Sesko? So, possibly Vlahovic, possibly Sesko. These might be the more realistic options. We'll wait and see.
We've had some news just into us from Sky in Italy. And Arsenal assistant Carlos Cuesta is the prime candidate to take over at Parma. The Serie A club are working on a deal for the 29-year-old who's been assistant to Mikel Arteta since 2020.
Yeah, and actually, Cuesta would stand to become the youngest head coach in Italy in the post-war era at that age. And Parma have been looking for their replacement to Christian Chivu, who, of course, has taken over at Inter Milan. So Arsenal might at this stage be losing their assistant, Carlos Cuesta, to Parma.
Reflect on Arsenal, if we can, Jay, a little bit. One of your favourite topics, of course. They've won the major trophy under Mikel Arteta back in 2020. It was August, wasn't it? Because of the surreal COVID months that we had. Does it feel like now they need to win silverware 5 years on?
Yeah, 100%. I'm a bit disappointed, to be honest, that Arsenal are where they are in the league. I thought this would be the season that they kick on. Yes, me and Clint spoke about it last week. Arsenal is one of those teams that are dying out for a striker. And I feel like that's always been the problem of recent years. I think we rely too heavily on Saka and Odegaard. Saka being our best player, but Odegaard probably been our most important, as in he keeps it ticking. But, Arteta's come into the club. He finished 8th, 5th, 2nd. And now we're in his 6th season. He spent a lot of money, the better part of 700 million. And I feel like it's just gone a bit stale. The fact that Arsenal now are relying on set pieces a lot. We're not playing free-flowing football like we was last year. Yeah. It almost tells me, like, when plan A doesn't work, it's like, what happens next? I've seen in recent weeks the defence being a bit shaky, especially against Newcastle. I've never seen Arsenal's defence.
Right, let's get to the back of the Star. The main headline there, Bayern bid to nick Vic. This is Victor Gyokeres, the Sporting Lisbon player who was playing, of course, under Ruben Amorim. And it says here that Bayern Munich want to hijack Manchester United's bid to sign the Swedish striker. Miguel, tell us about this one.
I mean, it's an interesting one. Bayern have generally been a very well-run club in terms of planning succession. Yeah, there have been dips in the past few years, but usually they're quite good at this. And I suppose this is interesting in the context that obviously there's the figure of Harry Kane in the team. But we know they have been looking at another forward for the past few years. Sesko, who Arsenal have looked at. Forest also like him. And Gyokeres, I suppose, is a similar sort of profile, at least in terms of age and what they can do with him. And it would make complete sense for Bayern Munich to be to be looking at a player who has been one of the revelations of European football over the past year, and also there might be, potentially exploiting a situation given that Bayern Munich obviously have money to spend at the moment, whereas Manchester United need to make sales in order to buy. So suddenly, look, because of the Amorim connection, a lot of people expect Gyokeres to go to United, but if they can't afford that sort of deal, there's a chance for someone else like Bayern.
Yeah, it's exactly the question I was going to put to Jason, Miguel. This £80 million buyout clause at the moment, Manchester United needs sales. Talk about Rashford going on loan. That's not going to help that situation. They need to offload before they can get involved with the likes of Victor Gyokeres at £80 million.
Yeah, they absolutely do. I mean, I think they've got PSR concerns. Obviously, I've written in tomorrow's paper that Casemiro is edging closer to a move to the Saudi Pro League, which would be a big significant development for Manchester United because he's such a high earner on their wage bill that if they could move him on, then obviously that would give them some wriggle room. As you say, Rashford is one that they're hoping to move on. Joshua Zirkzee's future is also in some doubt. Well, I think he wants to stay, whether or not Manchester United actually want him to stay. And I think the left-back position as well, they're going to try and get Nuno Mendes from PSG, but that's not going to be easy for them. So it's going to be very, very difficult. They're going to have to trade. They're going to have to try and work a solution in terms of creating more space in the squad and more money. As Miguel says, they can't go out there and splash £80 million on Gyokeres. It's just not going to happen this window, I don't think. They can possibly do that. So if there is going to be some trading, it's going to have to involve players going. And as we know, in the past with Manchester United, it's been extremely difficult for them to move on players, and they've not always done very, very good deals. And I think it'll be a difficult month for them because lots of clubs know that they're in a situation where they're not desperate, but they obviously want to trade, they want to do deals. I think the Casemiro one, if it does happen, will be quite significant because that, as I say, that will be a big chunk of money that they can save, but it doesn't actually help the pot in terms of transfer funds. So I think they'll have to be quite canny this month and try and do some significant loan deals if possible, and